What's good, everybody? Back once again for a little bit of this recap, analysis, thoughts, and prayers, and whatever you want to say for the night's game of the Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat. Maybe I should say the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics, because the Miami Heat, who I feel like everybody once again, maybe we didn't underestimate them or whatever. I believe I was like, I picked Miami in this series just because I believe in Jimmy Butler. But but I was like, but it's the whole thing that is like, this is one of them games where it's like it proves that everything you see on paper is not necessarily what is true. Whether that comes to like the analytics, where it comes to like the name brand of people. I feel like this series in of itself is like the proof of that, because if you probably had on your hand and you probably and you can name off all the bosses, you probably gonna be able to name, I feel like 6 or 7 of them. Probably 8 or 9 if you were a basketball dude or a dudette or whatever. But I was like, but the Heat, if you just a regular person, maybe you get 3, and I was like, and to be honest, that for Jimmy Butler, I actually think that people will probably have a hard time with the second one. You would think people would probably be like bamadebayo, but I bet you somebody probably be like, oh, Kevin Love from Cleveland or something, or Kyle Lowry. Like they probably get that. They probably get the last two wonky enough. They'd be Family Feud all day. But no, this seems like one of the what we have been able to make out of the whole Boston Celtics this whole playoffs is pretty much basically like they're so talented, and this is where I do think the talent difference is between Boston and Miami, is that Boston is so talented that they always sort of just like coast. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've seen like these people in like life or see them in sport where they have so much talent that stuff is just like sort of like effortless. Whereas everything about the Heat matches so much with, I guess, the culture that they subscribe to. Jimmy Butler, who, if you know anything about Jimmy Butler's upbringing from being out on the streets, Marquette, barely in Chicago and all this other stuff, and then all them undrafted players, that there's a difference of like, it's not that they're not talented, but you can sort of tell when somebody else has like things that you don't have or something like that. So that's what that means. That means you sort of work harder, you want that more, there's a little bit more desire there. That means you got to work on certain things a lot more, or where this person can cut corners or whatever like that. And that's sometimes what I feel about the Celtics, that a lot of times, they sort of cut corners in the sense of like how they get here. Like for instance, like the Celtics got so many dudes, but I was like, sometimes they just settle for threes in a way, and they get 2-3 hungry. And the thing is, it's great when it was going. That's how it was like the first half with Tatum. They were going in like at like such a like at a high rate, especially from like how Tatum, like ever since the whole first quarter thing, I was like he been able to rectify that a bit, but I was like, you could tell like he was in the bag, and he was in the bag in the first half, because I was, he was like doo 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 doo, and he was like, so like you knew that he was in a rhythm and stuff like that. And he would get to the basket a couple of times, but he was just on it 3-point wise. He even had this somewhat that's going in the third quarter or whatever. But once that 3-point thing going, I was like, Jaylenbrown sometimes like also start getting in the 3-point range. And then I was like, Brogdon dude. I was like, Derek White, that's sort of his game as well. Horford stays out mainly on the perimeter. The only really inside presence you have is Robin Williams, but that's not his game in that way. He's more of a lob dude, put back kind of guy. So, but whereas the Heat, like, yes, they do shoot a lot of threes, but I was like, a lot of their threes are like created. And I feel like also too that they like that with their team ball of they're able to they do they have Bam, and so they do in a high pick and roll where Duncan Robinson gets it. They do a lot of like give and go. I was like, they go in the paint and they're able to push it back out, or they have it rotated. The Celtics don't really do a lot of that. The Celtics are really much of, I was like, every now and then you'll get like a kick out, but for the most part, like when it's Brown or it's Tatum, they're just isolated. Marcus Smart will also have his moments of isolation as well. Brogdon and White will a lot of times get their stuff basically on kickbacks or whatever. But yeah, no, I was like, they're not creating the same mismatch, and also they're getting just beat on the boards from like everybody in a way and it's like offensive rebounds too on top of that, where they're giving them where they're all getting second point. And granted, Bamadebayo is basically just like he either getting the rebound or he's tipping it back out, so he's doing his job. But I was like, but you got so many of them, like Kyle Lowry's like for his size is a good rebounder. Caleb Martin's around the ball. Struz is around the ball. So you have a lot of people that have it as their mission of like there's a ball around, they're going to it way harder and faster than anybody else on the Celtics, and they're real. And to me, it's really, and I was like, yes, it's the MO of like the Heat of playing with like hustle and intensity and a sense of urgency and all those like fabulous words or whatever like that everybody likes to use, versus the Celtics who just sort of like, I feel like coach like, oh, we get back in this. This ain't no problem. We got this. Ain't no big deal. And then you're like, damn, we're down by 7 with like 2 minutes to go. And it's just like it's just, and I was like, and it's just one of them things. It's almost like procrastination. But I feel like, for like a test that you got like 2 months to get it done. But what you do, you wait until the last week to get it done, and then you're like, damn it, I gotta turn this in by like the morning of, and then next thing you know. But I was like, I don't know. At least that's how I see it. Also, I do not get I was like, granted, I was like, I've seen it a couple of times, and like when I'm able to watch the games, especially when I'm able like to fully catch it, like fully catch like some games or whatever like that. But but it's still funny when I've like been hearing it, because like it became like more of a thing here recently. But I don't understand what's up with Joe and not using his timeouts at all. I don't understand it when it's like you're not challenging anything, so I don't get what you're saving that for. And then like I was I think they was like down like 4 or something like that, with like they still had like 18 minutes to go or whatever. They didn't call timeout. Cool, whatever. Bad shot by Tatum. All right, cool. They had the foul. Okay. Then on the other end, like I get that it's like 8. It's like 8 seconds left, and you don't use a timeout there either to just get a better shot or to have the clock not be used, like all this type of stuff. And I was like, to me, I'm like, that works in the video game of being able to get down there that quickly and like throwing it down and whatever like that. In real life, no, they're over here guarding you like so far away from the thing that they're sort of like putting you in a predicament of like, yeah, go ahead, we want you to burn all of your time trying to cross over half court just to get up a horrible shot when it's not even gonna matter because we're up by so much. That's what I don't. That's just sort of baffling to me. Also, just a mini thing of just like my rant of like the whole like sticking your leg out shot. Like I was like, to me, I was like, okay, cool, you're going to call Jimmy Butler for the offensive foul for when he shot the 3. But then I was like, the one that gave Tatum his 3 points towards the end of the game with Gabe Vincent, I'm like, I don't understand. If you're going to do the Jordan logo with your legs out, to me, that's an offensive foul or whatever like that. I get underneath them. I get if you do run into their leg. But now they're over here springing out like they're about to do a split midair. That's ridiculous or whatever. But I actually think, funny enough, that I was like, it's always one of them things that I'm like, Jimmy's gonna play hard. Jimmy's gonna do what it takes for his team to win all the time. But it is funny to me that once Grant Williams did start talking junk, then all of a sudden that actually activated the whole Jimmy Butler mode. And it's like, it's funny because you'll hear like the athletes like, no, I'm always prepared, or I was like, no, I'm always thinking about it again. I'm like, yeah. But then all of a sudden, when we see things like that, it's like, yeah. And then until somebody talking mess in your face, then all of a sudden that little extra gear kicks in, where it's like, oh, cool, that's what we doing. All right, cool. Watch this. This is what we gonna do. And I was like, 10-point leads don't matter versus the Heat. I was like, first of all, I seen like they're like 5-2 when they're trailing down by 10 points, which is crazy. But in that situation, I was like, no, they wasn't going. I was like, they were going to come back. They're going to always like have a chance to come back or whatever. But also too, Jimmy Butler is looking to be more of a facilitator and then get his shot. So the last thing I feel like you're gonna do is also make him get his shot at the same time. Now he becomes a threat, and now he gonna throw the ball over, but he don't have to. He ain't do it like hardly at all, like toward that like and pace or whatever. But Grant Williams held up his end, so you can't even get mad at him for like talking, poking the bear, whatever they're gonna say, because he held up his end. Nobody else did. And that's the thing. Like Jaylenbrown, he ain't had like a good game at all. Marcussmart neither. I was like, Horford always is sort of hit or miss, so I don't really expect that. Brogdon pretty much came with his normal expectations or whatever. Sometimes he has a little bit more point, but I was like, but you get so much with him with like facilitating and defense sometimes. Derek White also didn't really play that well. I was like, you didn't get their supporting cast having a great game. But the Heat also, I mean, Caleb Martin, who had a really great game, and Duncan Robinson gave you a good amount of points off the bench, and he gave you good minutes or whatever. And I was like, even though he's a defensive liability, he still played within the team defense to where he's not too much and it also seems like the Celtics aren't really isolating on him. I know they try. I was like, the Heat are just higher than him, but they don't really go at Duncan in a way that you would think that somebody would, when he is obviously the most person you should pick on in this situation when you're on offense. But yeah, but I was like, Gabe Vincent, even though he hit the big bucket in the fourth quarter, in the fourth quarter, I was like, he haven't had a good game, so I'm like so so it really is Bam and it's Jimmy, and then I was like, two of the four rotating people come into play, and I was like, I don't think this is going to be a sweep. But I was like, I feel like the Celtics, they should get one. I just don't know if it's the third one or if it's the fourth one. And to me, I sort of feel like it's the fourth one, where it was like where your desperation is so high that you sort of have to have a win just not to look like pitiful on the way out. But no, this was pretty much. I mean, I was like, it was pretty much the overall game plan, because they pretty much took out Tatum in the fourth quarter. And I was like, I'll say that just because. I mean, he did go to the free throw line a couple of times, but he hadn't really been involved in the fourth quarters or whatever. And to me, it's on both him and the coach, because I was like, I hear people being like, you got to be the basketball player that's like, demand the ball, I want it, all this other stuff, and that is true. But your coach also shouldn't be a dummy. Sort of like how it was with also not Embiid getting the ball, of knowing oh, my best player hadn't touched the ball and people just jacking up shot. Let's stop this. Let's go ahead and run a play to either have him initiate something for y'all to get the y'all shot, or something where he gets a good shot or something. I was like, so to me, it's on coach and it's on the player. I was like, it's just not one sided with the player in this situation as well too. Yeah, but Jimmy, there goes that man, or something. That's what we're going to coin. Anyway, if you liked anything I had to say in any of my thoughts on this particular game, thanks. I appreciate it. If not, hey, maybe next time. But until then, peace. I'm out.